It's 43 AD. Led by Emperor Claudius, the Romans set their sights on Britain. With 4 legions, they crossed the sea and landed on its shores. The Britons watched, awed and fearful, as the disciplined and mighty Romans marched forward. They carved their destiny in these uncharted lands. Amidst chaos, a city emerged, Londinium. Situated near the Thames, it was perfectly placed. The Romans built a bridge, the first of its kind, making the city a hub of trade and power. Londinium thrived, a melting pot of cultures under Roman rule. This was the dawn of Londinium, shaped by Roman hands. A story of conquest, of a city born from war and strategy. London's legacy, enduring through time, began in this moment of history. Long before the Romans envisioned Britannia as a jewel in their imperial crown, the area now known as London was teeming with life and activity. Archaeological evidence points to human presence in this region as far back as 4,500 years ago, marking a long history of habitation that predates Roman ambitions. Whilst there is limited information on London during the Iron Age, it's believed the area was inhabited by a number of smaller tribes. These settlements tended to be positioned on high ground, near to the Thames River, where some of their livestock were grazed. When the Romans arrived in 43 AD under the command of Emperor Claudius, the area was already inhabited. The Celtic people that lived in London were known as the Trinovantes, and it's believed that they had built a stronghold on the north side of the Thames. The leader of the Trinovantes at that time was a man called Cunobeline. He was a king who ruled over a territory which included the London area. Despite the presence of these early settlements, the region was not a major political or economic center before the Roman invasion. The Romans' arrival in 43 AD marked the beginning of London's development into a city, as they established Londinium as a strategic settlement to control the newly conquered territory. Soon after the invasion, Londinium, the heart of modern-day London's square mile, emerged. The initial Roman dwellings in London were basic wooden structures accompanied by open spaces and roads. Within years, a wooden bridge named London Bridge and a wharf were constructed, now the location of Leadenhall Market, showcasing Roman occupation remnants to this day. By 60 AD, substantial stone buildings and a stone fort for Roman soldiers were abundant in the capital. Fragments such as decorated floor tiles and Roman glass have been unearthed from this period. However, Rome's dominance was not without challenge. A revolt, led by Queen Boudica of the Iceni tribe in AD 60 or 61, was a significant uprising against the Roman occupation of Britain. Sparked by the Romans' seizure of Iceni lands, their brutal treatment of the local nobility, and the public flogging of Boudica and the rape of her daughters, the revolt saw Boudica's forces attack and destroy several Roman towns, including Londinium. Ultimately, the rebellion was quashed by the Roman army, leading to the deaths of thousands of Britons and the consolidation of Roman control over Britain. Despite being destroyed during the Boudiccan revolt, London was promptly reconstructed by the Romans. By 75 AD, London had evolved into a well-established regional capital with its own governance, boasting a forum, basilica and temples. The forum served as the city's central district, and the basilica, a pivotal public building, hosted law courts and tribunals in the southern region. The remains of these structures can still be explored today, with the forum beneath Leadenhall Market and the basilica beneath Guildhall Art Gallery. By 100 AD, the majority of public buildings were completed, solidifying London as a permanent, organized city. By the time Emperor Hadrian visited Londinium in 122 AD, the town's development may have already reached its zenith. With a diverse population of approximately 45,000 people from across the empire, London was a vibrant cultural hub even in those early days. However, by the 3rd century, Londinium began to decline amidst a tightening recession and political turmoil throughout the empire. The city's population decreased, making it unsustainable to finance grand construction projects, leading to the demolition of large city areas. Additionally, the threat of barbarian raids and pirate attacks increased, prompting the construction of a defensive wall around the city circa 200 AD. The decline continued over the following 2 centuries. In the early 4th century, major public buildings in London were methodically destroyed, possibly as retribution for a revolt against Roman authority, and the entire area south of the river was forsaken. Defensive fortifications were the only significant constructions during this period. As the century progressed, Britannia's military forces were gradually redirected to combat barbarian threats in other regions. In 407 AD, Emperor Constantine II withdrew the remaining troops. 3 years later, Emperor Honorius rejected a final plea for military support from the Britons, marking the end of Roman dominion and signaling the start of the decline for Roman London. By the mid-5th century, Londinium was completely deserted. When the Romans abandoned London, the idea of a continuing settlement here must have been a strange one. A network of hilltop Saxon villages overshadowed by a ruined Roman metropolis, and nearly all Roman public life disappeared except the church. St. Martin's Church continued in use for several centuries and was the only major building to remain in use after the Roman period. The site where St. Paul's Cathedral now stands was partially abandoned. The site where All Hallows by the Tower stands was turned into a graveyard. However, the Saxon strategy was to keep close to the river for communication and travel, but they avoided the hilly northern area, which was abandoned. In the southern part of London, Lundenwic thrived. Lundenwic was established in about AD 600 and lasted as a significant village until about AD 850, when the successful Viking raid caused everyone to move into the Roman walled city, which we now call the City of London. Lundenwic was based around the area between modern-day Strand, Covent Garden and the River Thames. The establishment of Lundenwic took place just after St. Martin in the Field was turned from a private chapel to a minster. The medieval historian William of Malmesbury, writing in the early 12th century, tells us that Lundenwic was founded by 2 chieftains and that their 2 people, the Middle Saxons and the East Saxons, jointly occupied the new settlement. This helped to reunite the 2 groups after recent infighting, in itself a legacy of the division of the former Roman province of Britannia into separate kingdoms or sub-kingdoms. In 1066, the Normans' success completely changed London and the wider England. As a result of their victory in the average Battle of Hastings, William the Conqueror became king, a position he enforced by building the Tower of London in 1078. Nonetheless, the defeat of the Anglo-Saxons also led to social and political change. Most strikingly, the Saxon nobility was straight away removed from power. Their land used to set up new Norman estates. This led to a turning of the populace, with London expanding and becoming predominantly Norman through the next many years. Indeed, enormous fires in the 12th century and 1132 furnished a possibility for London to be rebuilt in an extra-modern and nicely planned fashion, and many new stone buildings had been constructed. From the architecture of churches such as St. Bartholomew the Great to the improvement of alternate and commerce, proof of Norman have an impact on is nevertheless viewed across London and the city today. There is substantial evidence to suggest that there was a remarkable upturn in economic growth during medieval times in the majestic city of London. With the passage of time, this bustling metropolis evolved into a bustling hub of immense activity and a flourishing industrial centre, ultimately establishing itself as the most prominent urban centre in the entire nation. Initially, there was some resistance from King John regarding the idea of granting London self-governance. Nonetheless, after careful evaluation and consideration, he acknowledged the importance of London's autonomy and ultimately accepted its self-governing status. This acknowledgement represented a significant milestone in the history of London's governance. The progress made during this era was not limited to intangible achievements alone. Numerous impressive buildings were erected, leading to a significant improvement in the infrastructure of the city. These architectural marvels not only enhanced the overall aesthetic appeal of London, but also contributed to the convenience and livability of the city's inhabitants. All these developments and achievements combined transformed medieval London into a vibrant and prosperous city, laying the groundwork for its future as an influential global metropolis. London experienced significant growth after the plague of 1665 and underwent extensive reconstruction following the Great Fire of 1666, which were two pivotal events in London's history that had profound effects on the city's development, population, and architecture. The plague, often referred to as the Great Plague of London, was the last major epidemic of the bubonic plague to occur in England. It struck the city in 1665, killing an estimated 100,000 people, which was roughly a quarter of London's population at the time. The disease spread rapidly in the overcrowded and unsanitary conditions of the city, where fleas from plague-infected rats transmitted the disease to humans. The following year, London faced another catastrophe, the Great Fire, which broke out in the early hours of September 2nd, 1666, in a bakery on Pudding Lane. Fueled by the city's wooden buildings and narrow streets, the fire raged for 4 days and nights, destroying over 13,200 houses, 87 parish churches, St. Paul's Cathedral, and most of the buildings of the city authorities. It is estimated that the fire displaced up to 80,000 of the city's inhabitants, which was a significant portion of its population. This period of rebuilding set the stage for further expansion during the Industrial Revolution. The Elizabethan era, spanning from 1558 to 1603, played a crucial role in shaping the city's architecture and urban planning. The dissolution of the monasteries under Henry VIII in the 1530s initiated a wave of new developments, transforming London's urban landscape. Despite this growth, the absence of formal town planning led to the haphazard creation of streets and thoroughfares, reflecting the city's organic expansion. In 1603, Elizabeth died, and the Tudor line ended. King James VI of Scotland inherited the throne of England and became James I of England. It was James I who ordered the translation of the Bible, known as the Authorized King James Version of the Bible. It was completed in 1611 and has been in use ever since. James I was the first Stuart monarch, and London's theatre and art scene flourished during his reign. Playwrights like William Shakespeare became very popular, and some of his great pieces like Hamlet and King Lear had their first performances during James I's reign. In 1605, a group of Catholics, including a man called Guy Fawkes, plotted to blow up the new king and the Houses of Parliament. However, the plot called the Gunpowder Plot was discovered, and King James I escaped the assassination attempt. After the discovery of the plot, the 5th of November was made a day of national thanksgiving, and it has been remembered every year since. It was during these times that the city began to expand and grow considerably. King James I died in 1625 and was succeeded by his son, King Charles I. The bubonic plague killed over 35,000 Londoners in just 1 year in 1625. This was an estimated fifth of London's population. In 1532, Parliament passed an Act for the better relief of the poor of London, and the 78 parishes of London and its suburbs were combined to form the biggest and most powerful local authority in England, the Corporation of the City of London. During the Industrial Revolution, London experienced extraordinary urban and economic growth, catalyzed by advancements in transportation and manufacturing. The city's economy skyrocketed, with London's landscape dramatically reshaped by new canals, bustling factories, and expanding global trade networks. The population grew from 600,000 to almost 6 million, leading to the growth of city infrastructure and the building of famous landmarks such as St. Pancras and the Fourth Rail Bridge. This time period saw a rise in wealth alongside growing poverty and poor living conditions in areas near factories. The Victorian Age further propelled London's status as a global economic powerhouse and the epicenter of the British Empire, with the population reaching over 2.5 million by 1850. The era was characterized by significant advancements in infrastructure, healthcare, and sanitation, spurred by a liberal political atmosphere and the expansion of the railway network. However, this rapid growth also exacerbated social issues, including poverty and overcrowding, leading to concerted efforts in urban planning and improvement by the newly established London County Council. The 20th century brought profound challenges and transformations, notably through the devastation of the World Wars. The Blitz of World War II inflicted massive destruction on London, resulting in extensive loss of life and displacement. Post-war, the Labour administration initiated ambitious reconstruction plans, leading to significant urban redevelopment and the foundation of new towns. This period marked a departure from traditional architectural styles, with a focus on modernization and the controversial demolition of many historic buildings. The post-war era also ushered in a cultural renaissance, fueled by the youth movement, increased immigration, the Festival of Britain, and the influence of the angry young men and other creative communities contributed to a vibrant, multicultural arts scene. London's cultural landscape was further enriched by the emergence of districts like Brick Lane and Hoxton, which became symbols of the city's dynamic and diverse cultural identity. As we finish exploring London's history, we see its journey of change, strength, and new ideas. London has been key to major events that affected not just itself, but also the world. Over the years, London has kept changing, facing challenges with increasing strength and diversity. Today, it's a city that shows what humans can achieve, respecting its past while looking forward to the future. Reflecting on this, we're inspired by London's enduring spirit and its people, making it one of the most interesting cities globally. Thank you for coming with us through London's history. Please remember to subscribe, share, and comment.